Joining us this week for Know Your Enemy, Colorado versus West Virginia, we got Keenan Cummings from West Virginia Sports.com, WVSports.com, actually.
Yes, sir.
Keenan, you've been covering this team a long time, and obviously Rich Rod is back and all that. I want to ask you, can you give us just a short summary on this season so far for all? You've had 4 quarterbacks throw a pass. There's a lot going on. Just could you give us a short summary of the team in the season?
Yeah, that's quite a long-winded story, but well, I guess we'll begin this way. I mean, Rich obviously coming back is pretty big in a lot of ways. I was here. I was a student at West Virginia when he was here the first time when he left.
Wow.
To imagine that this would become full circle and that Rich would be back on the sidelines is almost impossible to believe if you go back and ask people in 2007. But, a lot of momentum, early on, a lot of things that people were excited about. People know one thing about Rich Rodriguez, his teams are going to play hard. They're tough. They usually get better as the season goes along. And, people don't have to kind of project there. They've seen it. They've seen it from West Virginia in the past. But this season's been interesting. West Virginia had to completely turn over their roster. And when I say completely turn over, I mean Colorado levels a few years ago. Yep. They added 80-some players, 50-some transfers. And it wasn't like they went out and said, hey, we need 50 transfers. They literally needed 50 transfers to fill out their roster. So practically the entire offensive line from a year ago was gone, most of the skill players. So it was a complete rebuild. Went into this season, there was a little bit of optimism just, because it's Rich, but they were picked towards the back of the league. And then the injuries hit. West Virginia has been hit with injuries probably as bad as any team I've covered since I've been doing this. They've lost multiple quarterbacks, arguably their best running back, their best 2 running backs, their best offensive skill player, their best receiver, offensive lineman. Just go down the list. They've lost a lot of players due to injury. So it's been touch and go. They've had to patchwork a lot of things. They've played 5 different quarterbacks this year, guys. 5. And it's not like they went out and said, let's try this guy this week. A lot of it's been injuries. Kind of settled in on Khalil Wilkins, it felt like. And then he got hurt. So Scotty Fox takes over and has really played well, the last couple of weeks. It's kind of given West Virginia a spark. Played really well against TCU. He threw for a West Virginia true freshman record, 301 yards. And West Virginia had a chance to win that game. Couldn't get it done in the end, but you saw improvement. And last week they go out and beat Houston on the road. So things are, I guess, trending up, if you want to say, at this point, which is, if you're 3-6, I guess you got to look for every positive you can get. But they're playing much better football right now than they were a few weeks ago, which is kind of where you want to be.
I want to start there, Keenan, with Scotty Fox Jr. I watched pretty much all of that game last week as it was going on against Houston. He seems to really play with fire that gets the rest of that offense and that team kind of juiced up and ready to play. What do you make of kind of Scotty Fox's his game and kind of just what he brings to this offense is kind of with a different kind of dimension, I would say?
Yeah, I have the added benefit that I cover recruiting too. So I was there when he was getting recruited. I was there when he was at prospect camps under Neil Brown. And I said at the time, I thought he was the best high school quarterback that Neil Brown had brought in, just from a pure skill level. He's a lot better runner than people give him credit for, but his arm talent, he's flashed it at times. And I think when he got in early in the season, you could tell he was thinking a little bit too much. He wasn't really just going out and playing. The last couple of weeks, you've seen that kind of click. He's just kind of doing what he does, gets the ball out quick, plays smart football. Now you're a freshman. You can always revert at any time. Everybody understands that. But the last 2 weeks, he's not looked like a true freshman quarterback at all. Yeah, he's looked very good, taking care of the football, getting it out. He can run a lot better than people think. You watch that run against Houston, it was kind of an RPO play. Yeah. He kind of did that himself, just took off, ran right up the middle, and nobody was near him. So he can scoot. What he brings to this offense is some stability. They just haven't had it at the quarterback spot. Nico Markiel was expected to be their starter.
Right.
He had some good moments. He had some bad moments. They've tried Jalen Henderson. They've tried Max Brown, Khalil Wilkins. He brings some stability, and it's easy to see, like you were saying, if you pay attention, the guys have really rallied around him. I think that right now, I wouldn't have said this even going into last week, that he's probably your quarterback for the rest of the year. But if he continues to play this way, I think he solidified the role. I mean, Rich said early in camp, I don't think he ever thought he was going to get to this point, but he said multiple times, we've got 5 quarterbacks. We got 5 quarterbacks we think we can win with. Well, we found out, they do have 5 quarterbacks that can play, but I think Scotty's gotten to that point where he has a chance to really take this job if he continues to play this well.
He really impressed me last week. 5 total touchdowns, 0 picks over the last 2 weeks. I just want to ask just a follow-up because you mentioned in your opening statement about Rich Rod teams, they typically get better as the season goes on. Are you noticing that with this team as well? Obviously, had 4 or 5 losses in a row in kind of the middle of that season, but coming off the big win last week and even, the loss against TCU, I thought they played good football. Does it seem like this is a team that's kind of playing better football and trending in the right direction?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest shock of this season to me, beyond anything, was how flat they were coming out of the bye, going down there and playing UCF. I thought that's when it would start. West Virginia had a season a few years ago, quite a few years ago now with Rich. I think they started 1-4 and they finished 8-4 or something in that realm. Wow. So it's happened before, and it all started. They went down to Miami, played really well. They lost a really close game. They lost on a game-winning field goal, Kellen Winslow catch. That dates me right there, but Kellen Winslow catch, they lost that game. But that started the turn. That's what I expected to see, and they came out and played their absolute worst game of the season. I mean, it was awful. They just, the effort wasn't there, and that's the one thing you usually see. Flip forward to TCU, much better. Everything was better. You're getting that effort, you're getting that fight, and then they go on the road at Houston and do the same thing. And Houston's a good football team. I mean, I know that they've benefited a little bit from, some of their schedule, but that's a good football team. And West Virginia was able to move the ball effectively, able to create some turnovers, and you can see the confidence starting to grow. Rich always says, and he's always said this, if you play hard, you have a chance to win every game. You might not be the most talented team, and his level of playing hard is pretty much significantly different than a lot of people's. So I think that if you get to that point where you're playing with effort and good things start to happen, you get that confidence, and then it starts rolling. Do I think West Virginia is going to go win out? I mean, that's hard to say, but I do think it's a good thing that you're starting to play your best football heading into November.
Definitely.
Keenan, the quarterbacks are going to be the story of this game. I mean, Colorado starting a true freshman, Julian Lewis, too. I mean, I wish I could tell you. I have no idea what this offense really is going to look like. They changed play callers, too, over the Arizona game last week. But defensively for West Virginia, what can we expect in this game from them defensively? And who are some of the players that we should watch out for on that side?
Well, the buzzword anymore, guys, with football is multiple. You hear that every week, multiple. Zach Alley lives in multiple. He will throw a lot of different things at you. There are a lot of different blitzes, a lot of different coverages. He mixes things up, and he does it week to week. He's early in the season, there was a game where West Virginia had played multiple outside linebackers, and they had showed they've done 3-man fronts, 4-man fronts. They'll do a lot of different things, and I mean even between series. So it'll be interesting to see. That burns you sometimes too. If you're going to bring pressure, right. You get it causes some problems, and we've seen that at times with a new defense. But this is a unit that I thought they played very well against TCU. I think that might have been their best game of the year. Yeah. They had some big plays last week. They had a pick six, caused some turnovers. I don't know if necessarily it was their best effort. But again, if you play hard, you get in the right spots, good things will happen. And I think that's what you want to get. You want to get that consistency. Haven't seen that yet, but you hope that you can build on that. In terms of playmakers, West Virginia's got a lot of, I guess the most experience they have is up front. They returned quite a few guys. That's the one area of the team where you can say, hey, I recognize these guys' names if you're a fan. But it's more of a committee. They're going to play 6-7 guys up front. Jamori Robinson was their big pass rushing acquisition. Couldn't play the first 4 games, was going through an eligibility deal with the NCAA. Actually took it to court and won. But I think that you started to see some of the glimmers of what they thought he could be. He was the American Athletic Defensive Player of the Year last year. So, last week was by far his most productive game. Sure. And if you get that on top of what they've done, it's pretty solid. Linebackers, they're all solid. I would, Chase Wilson's probably the leader there. Reid Carrico is a senior guy in the secondary. Michael Coates has had a really good year as a coverage corner.
Dog.
And then Jordan Scruggs had the big play last week. They've had pretty solid play out of their corners. Safeties have been more up and down, but you're starting to see a little bit more consistency. It's a solid unit. I think they're early in the season. They played great. They really frustrated teams. I think they gave up like 13 points a game, something like that. Played very well. And then they got into the conference and everything blew up. And now you're starting to see it kind of tilt back a little bit to more solid play.
Last question I got for you, Keenan. West Virginia wins this game on Saturday against Colorado. If they do what?
Well, I think it gives you some more kind of momentum moving forward. You like to set out there and say, hey, man, the bowl game's still in front of you. But then after this, West Virginia's got to go to Tempe, play Arizona State. It's going to be a tough game. And they close at home against Texas Tech. But what you've kind of the difference, just the 180 after that UCF game to now, just in terms of, I think fans understand where West Virginia's at this year. Nobody's really demanding, and they beat Pitt, first of all. I mean, I think things might be a little bit different had they not come back and won that game, but they beat Pitt. But I think fans understand where West Virginia's at right now, and they like kind of what's happening on the outside, with the recruiting efforts and the players they're bringing in for visits. And they've seen it, as I mentioned. You got a little bit more patience when you've seen this before. When Rich was here the first time, he was 3-8 in the first year, and then went on to, everyone knows what he went on to do. Yep. So I think it gives you more momentum. I think West Virginia, if they continue to play mistake-free football offensively and get ahead of schedule, that was one of the biggest things Scotty Fox and the offense was able to do a week ago. That's what they didn't do against TCU. They got behind the sticks and it got them in trouble. Last week, they made things hard on Houston. They're getting 5-6 yards a carry on first down. And if you do that, it's hard to stop a team. I don't care how good you are defensively, if you can run the football. And that's the bread and butter of what Rich Rodriguez does. And then you throw in some of the guys they have out wide, like Cam Vaughn, Jeff Weimer, and you're starting to see some glimpses of, hey, yeah, this is going to be all right. So I think if they win this game, you get to 4-6 with 2 games left. You got a bowl game to play for. It's going to be tough, but it's a carrot out there dangling that some teams won't have.
Awesome, Keenan. This was great. Thank you for joining us, man. If you just want to let the people know where they can find you and your work on the internet.
Yeah, we're part of the On3 Rivals Network. You can find me over at WVSports.com. And if you want to give me a follow on Twitter, it's at Rivals Keenan, Keenan.
Awesome, man. We appreciate it. Best of luck in the game on Saturday. We'll see what happens between these freshmen, man.
Appreciate you, Keenan.
Thanks, guys.